Hi, Mel here. So I just had an interesting thought. Well, when I put it like that, it's a little bit strange, but I started watching this new show called, well, The Boys. It's a very popular show, and right now it's my new favorite piece of fiction. So, for those who haven't seen it, a brief summary. The Boys is a show about, well, bad superheroes. What if your favorite DC Justice League heroes were horrible or at best complicated people behind the scenes? And the story focuses on a group of vigilante who've been wronged by these heroes who are trying to expose them for what they are. That said, I really like to focus more on the character of Homelander. Well, the two most hated characters in the show for me are Homelander and Stormfront. And the concept that they represent, they're, I wouldn't say foil, or maybe they are foils of each other. Homelander is essentially a psychotic, deranged version of Superman, and Stormfront is, the best way to describe her right now is a mixture of Storm from X-Men and the Scarlet Witch from the Avengers movies. If you merge those two characters, you essentially get Stormfront. But what I wanted to say about these two characters is I think they sort of are representation of the battle between establishment Republican right-wingers and the alt-right. Homelander is your traditional white male, blonde, blue-eyed, all-American hero. We saw that in season 2, episode 1, where he gives the world a tour of his childhood home and upbringing. Of course, this is all dishonest because we know that Homelander was raised without a family. He is not all American. He was raised as a lab rat. And that is partly the reason for him being so very cold and immoral, almost amoral, you would say, because he was raised without any kind of loving parenting. And that may also be blamed for his seemingly strange, bizarre obsession with mother figures. I won't get into his mommy obsession. It's a bit creepy and weird, but I do want to say that Homelander is portrayed as very nuanced. We understand why he's the way he is, and we very much feel some empathy for him, or rather some sympathy for him, and the way he's turned out, even though we know he's a psychotically deranged individual who is beyond redeemable. That said, Stormfront is a little bit different. She is not sympathetic at all, and that's largely because we've never seen her backstory. We know nothing about her. In the most recent episode of episode 4, we get a little bit about how long she's been around, that she's been around since at least the 1970s, which is interesting. What I do know about her backstory in the comics, besides the fact that she used to be a man in the comics, is that she was basically the Nazi Germany version of Homelander. And she was more or less his clone, the male version of her, and that he was very much representative of Nazi Germany. The name Stormfront, for those who don't know, and I apologize for sending you to the web for this, but it is actually the title of a popular white supremacist neo-Nazi website. Stormfront. That's where the name comes from. I have to believe this is deliberate, considering, again, Stormfront's backstory of being created in Nazi Germany as a testament to Hitler's master race. So I can't imagine the creators didn't know exactly what they were doing by creating such a character and naming that character Stormfront. The interesting thing is he's been gender bent, and in the show he's portrayed by an actress. I believe her name is it's slipping me right now, but I believe the actress portraying Stormfront is of Jewish heritage, and so she is, nonetheless, she's kind of still portraying this kind of racist character. We see that in her backstory, where she essentially smashed the face in of that young black male, and while calling him a racial slur. And we also see her do the same exact thing to Kenji, who is the younger brother of Kimiko, when she called him a racial slur while killing him. So I'm not sure why casting a young Jewish woman to portray a white male neo-Nazi character, what the purpose of that is. But going back to when she's first introduced, why she's not sympathetic, and I'm being very cautious about this because I'm fully aware that women who participate in the same sort of behavior as men, or who engage in the same sort of aggressive antics as men, are often seen as not very likable. And I'm very wary of that, but I believe that is not the reason Stormfront is not likable compared to Homelander, who's somewhat slightly sympathetic. It's mainly because we don't know her motivation. We don't know why she is the way she is. We don't know what drives her. So far, we've learned nothing of her background, nothing about her motivations, why she is so sadistic and cruel and evil. We just know she's doing these things, and when we first meet her, she's arrogant, she passes judgment, she's dismissive of everyone, she believes she's smarter than everyone, and we know nothing about her. But her ambitions have put her in conflict with Homelander, who is the face of the Seven, and that is to say the most elite superheroes. Stormfront is not of... She is the first person to really be going toe-to-toe with Homelander, to challenge him outright, and has made it clear that she's there to replace him. Homelander gave her that nasty stare down in the last episode, and now in episode 4 he confronts her after going through, and this is pretty funny, but he went through a series of memes, popular memes on the web, that essentially promote her as the new face of the Seven, while dismissing him of being no longer relevant. And this is an interesting thing, because this is really why I'm doing this. The contrast between Homelander as the establishment, right-wing, all-American conservative hero. He ties himself to religious right-wing causes. There's a scene in this episode where the boys, I almost called him Boimler, but Yui Mother's Milk and Annie are driving to visit a woman, and they drive past a mural of Homelander with the Confederate flag. Homelander's cape is actually the American flag, but in this mural it's replaced by a Confederate flag. Homelander is essentially a right-wing traditional Republican, and Stormfront is the new alt-right. She's QAnon, and during their confrontation, when he accuses her of manipulating the media to try to make herself seem like she's the new leader of the Seven, and points out that he's still popular with traditional demographics, she is the first to point out that he wasted nearly $300 million on traditional marketing and promotion, while all she did was essentially pay a group of basement dwellers with laptops in Arby's gift cards to create memes on her behalf. This is essentially very much what the culture is about now, especially on the right. A lot of trolling, a lot of memes, a lot of, conspiracy theory websites like QAnon, like 4chan, like all these groups that are all about memes and trolling. And that's what she is relying on to basically put herself in the forefront of the Seven and to replace Homelander. So if Homelander is, say, the GOP, the establishment conservative, this woman would essentially be Trump. She would essentially be the leader of that alt-right group that's coming in to replace these traditional right-wingers. And I think this contrast is very brilliant. And she talked him out of killing her. But then we see at the end that Homelander murdered, spoiler, a version of him which I believe is an indication of the old Homelander is gone, and here comes the new Homelander, which is to say the right wing has all but given in to what was traditionally seen as the fringe element of their party. The trolls, the QAnons, the 4chans, it's given in to them. And this is what Stormfront represents.
Everyone I have ever loved is in the ground. And then I found you. We found each other. And now neither of us has to be alone ever again. And that is the truth. You are everything that we dreamed of. So I love you with all of my heart. How could I not? Everyone I have ever loved is in the ground.